So thinking about how we need to approach this, we have a card, and it does its own little logic, and we can move it around. Cool. The interaction with it will have to come a little later on. So overall, game-wise, though, we have our collection of cards here, right? We can see those, and that's like a master collection. That's all the available cards in the game, right? Now, to play around, we don't use those cards. That's the master collection. We need another collection for a player's inventory. But the idea of like the whole deck building thing is you probably want to shop or something, so we can buy cards to fill in our inventory. We get our inventory, and then from our inventory we can build our battle deck to actually combat with. So there's two other lists that we actually need to do. One's the inventory, and the other one's going to be our battle decks. And I think that's where we really need to start before we get into, oh, we're doing battle, because we don't even have a battle deck. We haven't defined it in any way, shape, or form to do that logic with. So I think the first thing we should do is build a shop and the player's inventory. So instead of looking at this beautiful window of emptiness in the default skybox, I thought I would maybe build a background at least, so we get looking at something that's not so ugly. Which means I'd have to do this, but just kidding. All right, so let's build a background. Okay, so we have a background. Figured this might be suiting a bit of a book. The other thing I built, which I didn't show on camera, I built on our cards. Where's our lovely little card here? I decided to build an actual bit of a backside to this, so that's what the backside looks now. It's not just the yellow or green or whatever the hell color I had it. I also built a couple other cards. Where are they? I built a beholder. So I think it's a beholder. And a knight. There he is. Like I said, I'm not an artist, so forgive me. Alright, so there's our beholder. So we would need to add those. We've got two new creatures. Let's add those. So our pre-fill count is now 6. Right, so we have a knight, which will give him the knight, and we have a beholder, which we'll just drag him down there. All right, so we gotta make sure to fill in all these things, right? Like all their stats and stuff. So what this one is, the card cost, we'll say a knight is 3. We'll call it Beholder 4. But same thing with all these, right? So we have a knight attack, and now eventually we're going to have to get into like special cards, like even more of a utility card, trap cards, or whatever the case is. And that's going to be a different animal altogether. Let's give a knight a fair bit of health. Now let's just give him 3. Alright, and the other one, we have sprites, we already did. The description. So we have a knight, and the actual order to what I'm putting these in really doesn't matter in this situation, as long as the key's the same. Like if I put the beholder here, and the cat here, and the troll here, it doesn't matter. The actual order doesn't matter. What matters is the key to the item, right? The key needs to match. There we go. So now we have a couple more cards. So we have our shop. I'm actually going to put this non-recastable, and what else do we want? So our store, I don't know if we want to use this as a store empty and put this as a child. It doesn't really matter that much, I suppose, but I really just want to put this skybox to a solid color. Yeah. So let's should we add it here? I don't want to get this too clustered. Maybe we'll add it empty. We'll call this manager. I mean, lots of times what I'll end up doing is I'll do managers like below, like store manager, player manager, and this is just my manager object. I don't know if I need to bother doing that with this. Okay, so we need essentially a list proxy. We'll use an array list. Do we use an array list? Should we use a hash table? Let's use a hash table. So we have hash table, and this is going to be, we'll call it player's inventory, and this one's going to be an integer, right? So we'll start, well, ideally we'll start it with 0. So we're going to have the card name, and then the quantity, the amount of cards we have will be the integer, but we're going to start with 0. So there's a player's inventory. It's literally as easy as that. The battle deck, we could probably, I think the battle deck we'll probably do as an array list, and we'll make that a string. So that'll be the card's name. And the reason why we'll use an array list for the battle deck compared to the hash table is we don't need to get any of the other data, because we can just reference these things. As long as we have the name, we can get all the data from these tables. We never need to actually drag that table or that data elsewhere, other than the health. I mean, unit health and stuff like that will have to be put into the card, because you can kill the card, and the card's going to have different health, and lose health, and gain health, whatever. So, but the array list is, we want to be able to add and build it all up. And if you have multiple of the same type, like you have 2 cats, that's fine, right? Because they can go in, and then we can take a list, and we can, when we want to go and mix it, we can sort it and mix it and shuffle and do crazy shit with it, right? And then that will just be easier to work with. So there we have that. Now we're going to need an FSM. We'll just call this manager. And because it's on an empty, it's manager, we want access to it. We want things to be able to find it, use it, take data, change data, do whatever. So this, it needs to have a reference. So let's make sure we have that. So we'll get owner and new global variable, and this we'll call it CTG manager. There we go. So now we have a manager. So we would need something like probably, we'll say a panel. I'll go black. So let's hide this shit for now. So this guy is going to be our, we'll call it our menu. So we would have some buttons, right? We'll have, you know, we'll build a store, and this one will do our battle deck. And we're going to need a play. Right, obviously you'd have quit and options and other things in there too. So let's name these things so that we can deal with them in code a little easier. And I don't like that kind of green boldy text. I don't know why it's there. Do I not have them all highlighted? Apparently not. Yeah, this one kind of suits it actually. Because of the pixel art and stuff. Let's sharpen it up though. Bring that dilate down. And kind of like it went sharper. Just a little bit of shadow there. That's probably good. Okay, so we have 3 buttons. So let's go into our manager. Let's just do another FSM, and we'll call this the menu manager. So button array. I like to do all my UI buttons through one FSM and not put logic on the buttons themselves. Personal preference. This way I can activate and deactivate things and not have to worry about if did I turn that object off that's holding that logic that does stuff. So we'll say open store, open battle deck, and Play game. So make another one called listener. I'm just going to drop those all as globals in case I need them. It's probably a horrible habit, but whatever. So listener is going to go back to itself. So let's do, if we get the event open store, that's what we're dealing with. So what is the open store? So the first thing we would need to do is the menu would need to deactivate. We don't want that. And the store would need to activate. Pretty simple. And then that means he would go like that. Our buttons disappear. He opens. He needs some buttons. So let's put a button here. Let's just call it let's change his font too. I don't know why it's doing that stupid ugly font first. Alright, so this button, let's stick, I don't know, here I suppose. And this guy will be menu. So I am going to go back into the menu manager. I'm going to add another one. So I like to keep them all in one spot. And this is to we'll just call it menu. Alright, so and then we have menu. Oh, not finished. We have menu. So in menu, kind of like this guy, only flip it because it's going to be the opposite, is now we have activate and deactivate. The beauty way of this thing is I can put one audio thing and do all the button clicks off of one audio. So I should have started that with that closed, but whatever. We should now have something that looks a little more presentable when eventually this fucking loads. Alright, so we have our menu. These buttons obviously don't do anything, but we can go, should be able to, oh, right. So the other thing we need to do, this is why we always test everything along the way. So as we go through, we are going to also add send events on all these things to the listener. And we want to do that the same as on the store. The other two we haven't added, and that's fine. So now, of course, now the menu and the store are both closed. We didn't want that. So, menu's open, so we can go to the store, we can go back. Just as simple as that. Right? So, the thing is now the store. We need to build the store. So let's open our store. That's not our store. Open our store. So we need a way to fill all these cards in. So let's put an empty. We'll call it card holder, and let's give that a grid layout group. And then in that, let's put, for now, a panel. And now we can use that for sizing and stuff. So we obviously don't want just one card sitting there. That is stupid and ugly. So start corner upper left, let's take this guy and stretch him to where we kind of want this stuff to happen. want all our stuff within this little box. Alright, so now if we look at a card, I know the width and height, 61, 103. So I can say 61, 103. And let's come off the left a bit, come off the right. There we go. So now if I had a bunch of cards, they would truck along like that. So yeah, let's give it a bit of spacing on the X. That's probably fine. A little on the Y. There we go. So now we have that. Perfect. So that's slots for the cards. Let's get rid of those. Right, because now, I mean, I guess I could have just done this with the card itself. Right, so the cards will just fit in there just perfect. So, I guess you can sit there. Oh, no, we don't want them to sit there. Let's put them back up on the board and hide them for now. So we would want to have, when this store opens, we need to know this object, and we need to create a card, and that also means our cards are going to need a cost, which is actually one more little list, right? So we need another hash table, and this will be card cost. That's a store thing. So it's going to be, now we'll say an integer, and we have 6. So we have can't, we'll say 50. Whoop. I fucked that one. I'm doing a 50 goblin. We'll call him 60. Damn it. And we'll have a troll. There we go. Now we have card costs. So, all we really need to do now is, when this opens, we need to populate it with a bunch of cards. So let's actually do this in a whole nother FSM. We could keep it in here, but let's not. Let's keep it in. Let's separate it. Make it clean. So, okay. That means we're going to have an event called Open Store. And that means we're also going to have an event called Close Store. So, when we open a store, what do we want to do? We need a reference to the card holder, for one. So, we ultimately need to do hash table. We should have a hash table get next. There we go. Hash table get next. So what we need to do is we need to go through all the cards. What the hell did we call the first manager? Card manager. There we go. So we're going to go through guess we don't care about any of that. We can literally just go through the card cost one. Kill two birds with one stone, right? So we have a looping event, and of course we have a done event. So it's going to be a type integer, and that's going to be the current card cost. So we're going to loop through. And as we loop through, what are we going to do? We need a card template. So let's just select that. Let's just drag it in over here. And let's add our loop and done events. So we loop. So for every time we go with loop, we're now looping through all. We're going to loop this many times. We're looping. We're going to grab all these names. So all we really need to do is create object, and we're going to create our card, and the parent is going to be the card holder. This is going to be our created card because we've just created it, and we are going to set FSM string. Now, if you recall, on the cards, we have where it does a tiny little wait. It may not be necessarily needed, but we have a set card and it has a card name, right? So that's going to be our created card, and we're going to give it type integer, the key. So this is our current card. We also want that too. So we're taking our key and the integer. So we're going to set current card, and then we loop and we're done. Right, just like that. And now that's we can do a little more here, but we're going to test that real quick. So let's make sure it builds. For starters, I mean, it wasn't really a whole pile of logic though. You would imagine it would work. I've messed up simpler stuff, that's for sure. Alright, so we go into our store. And you know what? We've messed it up. Told you. I can mess up anything. I can mess up anything. So when we open the store, what are we going to do? We are going to send an event before we go to the listener, to ourselves, to the store, to open the store. Told you, I mess up anything. It's like a special talent I have. Alright, so now we open the store, and boom, we have our cards. Now their scales get all screwed up, so that's something we need to fix, and they all default as they're back facing, which is fine. That's something we'll fix as well. But if I go through them, you can see they are each of the different cards. So that part is all working, and they all have their own stats. If I zoom in, we can see their description is written really lightly and hard to read, but hey. Oh, the Goblin has the same description. Oh no, Angry Goblin, standard guy. I just write the same apparently. Okay, never mind. So it's all working. Okay, so the card template. The card template needs something. Let's give it an FSM. Okay, so we have on pointer enter. You know what? We can probably put that right in here. Let's set scale. I don't know if this is a good idea or bad idea, but oh god, no. Zeros are bad ideas. Ones are good ideas. Okay. So the card flipping thing, I don't know if we should send an event or flop a bool. Maybe just a bool. I think. Yeah. Yeah, let's just do it by a bool. I think that'll be the best. So we'll just call it is flipped. And then all we're going to do is a bool test is flipped, and we have true and false. I must have put them both in. So I just copy and paste and delete one. So true, false, and we need an activate. Activate game object, and we want to do the backside. So all I'm going to do is just copy and paste. There we go. So we'll do true and then we'll do false. We'll get rid of false on this side and true on this side. Alright, so that means this guy doesn't have false. Get rid of him. Every frame on. He doesn't have true, so get rid of him and every frame on. So if we get false, let's do backside on. If we get true, backside's off. On, off. Okay. The other thing is we'd need a spot for pricing. We'll have to. I should put that on the card itself. It'll make it easier. Such as, let's go with another font. Let's go with something a little different. Let's go with this one. It's a little bigger and easier to read. And let's just shrink it down. Put it at the bottom. Say right there, which means we might have to expand our spacing on the Y. There we go. Let's put a default price. Sure. Stick him in the middle. I'm not too sure why we have some sort of weird background. Actually, I think I know, but I don't think it's anything to worry about. So let's call this price tag. And just deactivate it because we actually don't need it. Now, there is one thing we should probably do is in the extra settings, if you're using Text Mesh Pro, is turn off the raycast targets. Right? Like we don't want any of this crap on. We don't want to be able to raycast. I think I've already turned it off on these. Right? We don't want to be able to raycast any of this stuff, except for the card template itself. We'll raycast that. The rest of them we don't want it. Okay, so back to our manager, back to our store. So if we go through all this, the other thing we're going to want to do is set Fsm Pool of the card. Let's just drag it in because it's just so much easier to work with that way. And I didn't name the FSM, so whatever. And we'll set it to true. That's of course the created card. So set the name. We do that. The other thing we need to do is we need to get its child and set its pricing. So we could, there's a few different ways to do that. We could do that through the FSM, or we could just, I guess we could just call the price tag. Alright, so we named it price tag. Okay, I can work with that. So get child of the created card. The child's name is price tag, and that is the price tag object. And then set text. Make sure it's the UGI, and we're going to set text. Now we could build the text first if you wanted to add symbols and crap to it, or spacing, or put, say, cost, whatever. But we won't bother with that. So convert the current card cost. Alright, the other thing we need to do is, because it should be deactivated by default, is we wish to activate the price tag object. Alright, so now we open the store and we should have all our cards. They are flipped and we didn't get any of the prices right. So let's see why. Did it find the child? It activated the price tags. It says it set it. We set it to the owner. Well, you know what? If I can't screw something up, world's wrong. Price tag object. Alright, so we open the store. We now have price. That price is ugly. Just a freaking value there. It's so ugly. So ugly. So, how do we want to fix that? Let's build a string. So let's go with 2, and we're going to say cost that, and then the second part will be format string. No. Convert int to string. Move him to the bottom. Put him above the build string, which means we put the text below that, because we need to do this in order. So we're going to take the current card cost, and the string variable is current card cost string, and the format will be, we'll go 0000, 4 zeros. And then let's just bring in current card cost string. Don't add that to the end because there's nothing there to add. And this is our, we'll just call it string value. Now let's, instead of doing the current card cost, let's just do string value. So we're taking our value that we're taking from the hash table, and we're going to convert it so it's always going to have the 4 integers. That's what that means. And we're going to build a string called cost and then put those 4 integers there. Sound good? I think it sounds good. So let's save and hit play. Make sure that works. So we open the store. And there we have. So now, like, we obviously need to adjust some stuff here. Now, if we built more cards, though, we have this issue as well. That's not too bad. A little more on the Y spacing, but this part here needs to be fixed up. So, card holder, let's just give that a little Y on the spacing. It's at 6. Let's go 8. And then let's go into our card price tag, and let's bring this guy down. Let's go auto size, bring the minimum down to 9. maybe. See if that looks a little prettier. So we open the store, now we have a cost. Now we have this weird cost of 4, 6, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's not the right costs, is it? No, not at all. So we have card costs, and that is what we used, I'm pretty sure. Card cost. Knight is 3. Do I name those? Do we have 2 of them called card cost? Yes, apparently we have that. Card cost. Uh-oh. What was this one? Attack, health, sprite, description, card cost. What the hell is this table? Why do we have 2, and why is it all friggin' fuckered? Get rid of you. I have to do that again. Oh, card cost. Bring that back. So, card cost is in the cost when you're playing the game, the card cost. Okay, so let's rename this one differently. Card price. There. Okay, so let's change this one to card price. Okay. Yeah, when you run 2 different hash tables that have the same name, it's gonna most likely bring up issues, as you just seen. And when it confuses me, that's what happens. There we go. So now we got the proper costs in there. That's what it looks like there. Yeah, I mean, that looks decent enough, I suppose. I mean, you could almost put a little bit of a background there or some other stuff. Scale it down maybe a little more. But overall, it's working. Right, so now we need to be able to click and buy. Click and buy. So we need, what do we need? If we're in the store, we need a value. Let's put this one up here. Let's anchor it right up there and call this player money. Alright, so what are we going to do here? This manager? No, let's put them store menu manager. Yeah, let's do it. No. Nah. Because we probably put some more logic to this later on. So let's just make a new FSM called player money. So in the start, we are going to player pref get int, and we'll just call it money. That's the key variable. We'll call it money, and then let's convert and build and text, a whole bunch of those. So we're going to get this value, and next we need to convert this value to, we'll take money. There is a money string format. We might as well go with the same 4. And then we're going to build the string. We'll just call it money. And then over here we'll just add in money string, not and to the end, string value, and on the store player money, add string value. So it should be 0 because there is no player prefs for money, right? We don't have that. So I'm going to make just a little temporary FSM here real quick, and we're just going to set player pref int We'll call it money. We'll give ourselves like $5,000. I should turn this guy off for a minute though. So, so there's our money. Now let's set that. Now if I redo that, it'll say 5,000. Okay, cool. So now I can get rid of this guy. We don't need him anymore because it's saved in the player prefs. So anytime I hit play now, we have $5,000. Right, there we go. So, and this we'll use this one to check money against and add money and take away money and so forth. But that's our spot for the money. We're just gonna put it there. Okay. So the other thing our card needs is when we build a card. Let's see. We have a name. We have the key. Okay. So what happens when we click on a card? If we click on a card and we want to buy a card, how do we want to manage that? Right? So we could put logic on the card template itself, but then we have to put in some sort of system saying, hey, well, we're in the store, buy, or we can have it so like, okay, well, like, I don't know, just completely different logic, I suppose. I think the easiest thing to do would be to tag them. For one, we should do that, add a tag. We'll call this card, right? And then we can go to the template and set tag card. So in the manager, we could probably even do it in the store manager. So if we're open, that means we are sitting here. Now if we get a mouse click, a mouse button down, the other thing that we also want to do is, if you remember the card template, we have that in play so that we can't move it. We need to turn that on. But well, I'll leave it for now. So okay, we've clicked the mouse. So we need to get something. We need to get event, get pointer info. Right? Because we need to see what we're over. We have, okay, are we dragging on pointer enter would be the last thing we've entered. That might work. We could use the position and then raycast. But the pointer enter should be fine. I should call that current card. So I'll show you what this will do for us. Alright, so we go to the store, and as you see, everything's fine. We're in this state, and if I click, we're over the night, and I've clicked, and we see we're over the card template. Now, the important thing, really important thing with that is those raycasts, setting this crap off, right? We don't want to be able to raycast and hit any of that. The card holder doesn't have an image. We don't care about that. The button's fine. Right. The other things, like even the store image, we don't want to hit it. We don't want to hit anything but what we build the logic to hit. So the other thing we need to do is, let's say tag compare. Yeah. All right. So if the current, this guy here, is tag card, do card stuff. or, you know, skip. Because if we didn't click on a card, then just go back and wait, because we're not fucking buying anything. All right, so what is card stuff? So card stuff is, okay, if we're going to buy that card, you might want to pop up a window saying, do you want to buy a card, whatever. It's totally doable. But I think for now we'll keep it simple. And all we're going to do is we're going to get Fsm string. So we know that card we clicked on has a name. So this is the card name. Right, so I can change this back over to current. There we go. Now we can do hash table get. So let's move that to the bottom. So we want the hash table from the card manager, and we want the cost, the card price, the key is the card name, the type is an integer, the result is, we'll just call it card price, right? So we've clicked on it, we check to make sure that it's a card, and now we're, okay, it's a card, it is a card, so we grab all its data, we're grabbing its price. Now we could get an FSM int from our money thing, but I think player press is going to be just pretty much the same thing. Might not be quite as fast, but in this situation it's not going to matter. So this is our current money. Alright, so let's just finish. I mean, we could keep going in that state, but let's just finish it. So we have the card we've clicked on, we know the cost the card is clicked on, and we know how much money we have. So what do we need to do? We need to int compare. So is current money and card price, if they're equal, we can buy it. And if it's less, current money is less than that, then we can't buy, and we can just go back up to here. And if it's greater than, we can buy. Alright, so what is buying the card mean? That means int subtract the current money, subtract card price, and then set player pref set int. Let's put that back in, so we'll deal with the money first. And we're going to set in current money because we've modified it. Alright, now we still need to update the UI, which we'll do that through an event to the other thing. And then we now need to actually give ourselves this card, right? So we have a manager. Up here we have player's inventory, right? It is type int. Oh, it's a hash table, right? This one here is the battle deck. Okay, so now all we need to do is hash table add. Now there is one thing here is if it already exists or not, right? So we should probably do that. Hash table get. Let's do that one first. So we're going to go into, we're in the manager object, right? Yes. I think actually in the store, we're on the same object, so we don't actually have to do anything with the globals. So player's inventory, and we're going to look at the card name, and that's going to be a type integer. So this is our current card amount. Now, if the key is found, add to it. If the key is not found, it's a new card. So if it's a new card, all we want to do is hash table add. And we're going to go into our player's inventory, and the key is going to be the card name, if I can click the right thing, and it's going to be type integer, and the integer is going to be 1. So we're adding 1 card. And then we would just literally just go back to the mouse click. That would be it. Like I said, now we have to update the UI still. But if we're going to add to it, then we have the current card amount, right? So int add current card amount, add 1, hash table set. So we've added 1 to the current card amount. Now we go back into that same hash table, the same key, which is integer, and now we're going to set it to the current card amount because now it's modified. And then we can go back here. So we need a way to update our UI. Is that this one? No. Player money. So let's do update player money. Well, let's just add that right here. Okay, so back into the store. So at any point in time here, we would need to send, right? So we've modified it here, right? We've changed it here. So when we come to either of those, which we could just do it, we could just add it here. Granted, you start clicking all over the place, it's going to be doing it when it's not needed. But really, it's not that big of a deal for how often it'd be happening. But we'll add it in these ones. That's fine. So we're going to go to the player money and tell them to update player money. Copy and paste that in this one as well. There we go. So now we save. So now we have our store. We open our store, we see our money, we see our cards. I say buy, and buy the night. We see our money go down by 80 right now. So we don't have any sound effects or animations playing. But if I now go to player inventory, we have a night. And if I click on another night, we have 2 nights. I can go and I can just keep buying different cards. Obviously, you might want to throw a limit to those because I can buy as many as I want now. But now we can start building those cards. Money goes down, and if obviously our money was too high, but if I kept clicking, eventually it's going to be like, no, you don't have enough money, right? So the other thing though is player's inventory. If I look, I've got no money. What the fuck are my cards? Gone. Right, so we need to develop a bit of a save system for those cards. Right, so we could probably actually do that right in the update. We could just kind of tack it on here, right, on how we're going to save our inventory. So beauty part about the hash table and the strings and the integers is we could literally just hash table get next. So we could say player's inventory, and this is just saving into the player prefs. Not the best thing to do, but it works, right? I mean, if you have like easy save or something like that, it'd be better off. It'd be easier to do, actually. So we're going to go through this, and all we're going to do is, this is a type integer, current card amount, and as we loop, we are going to player pref set int. So we're going to set int, count is just going to be the 1, the key is going to be, we never did get the key, so let's bring the key in, is the card name, and the value is going to be current card amount. That's it. And then when we're done, it kind of just sits idly, I guess, but, and that would save our inventory. Save player cards. Now that's saving. What about loading? Right, when you start a game or something. So loading is a little different. Load player cards. So here we would need to now, again, we kind of more or less do this actually same logic. Just going to copy that and paste it in here. But we're not going through the player's inventory, because the player's inventory is empty. There's nothing to loop through, right? We're loading. It's empty. But what we need to do is actually go through the entire card manager. It really doesn't matter. You can pretty much choose any one you want here, because they all have the same keys and stuff. The card cost, and we're going to loop done. This actually current card amount. This part we're actually not going to be using here. So all we have to do is, as we loop through this guy, loop, and we'll add done. Done can sit there. So loop, we now, as we loop, we do player prefs get int, and like literally we're just using the name. We don't need the value, which is why like we don't care about this. Which is why you can use any of them. So we're just getting the card name, and this one's going to be the amount of cards. So then all we do is in compare. If amount of cards is greater than 0, add it to player. Beyond that, if it's equal, then we're just going to skip. And it should never be less than 0. That would be weird. Alright, so if we add it to the player, then all we got to do is hash table add, which first we should, no. Yeah, no, hash table add's fine. So we're going to add, and we're still in the player money, so we don't have to do any fancy stuff. Inventory, key, card name, type int, add this value, amount of cards. and call it good and go back to this. So there we have. That will save and load our player's inventory. So we just need a way to call that. Now from here we could load. I don't know if that's going to be the best thing for us. You know what? I think we should copy this. Because the starting is fine, but when we update, we may not want to get player prefs. Yeah, okay, so when we load from here, send event to ourselves to load the cards. So when we call the update from the other things, we do all the same stuff as this guy, but we're not going to load. Right, we're going to load on our own terms. From this one, we can save. We can call a save. Right, that should work fine. We can save the cards every time we do a big change to the money, or do any change to the money. So it's not like it's going to be that slow. Anyways, we could always adjust that. So let's test that. Let's see if that works. See where it's failed. So probably screwed something up. So we're gonna go. So we have to do the manager, which that should have. Oh, hash table get. Card cost from the board. Oh, you know what? I did this all in the. This is what I get for this. This is what I get. Let's add a next frame event. Actually, you know what? No. Let's just add a start state. So ultimately, what happened right there is it's trying to load, right? So it wants to go into the manager, get the names, list through all the frickin' names, do all that fun stuff, right? Fine and dandy. Thing is, because the global gets set in the first frame. So this guy here was trying to load the cards because it follows that line. It also in the first frame. So the next frame there, let the managers get in, do their thing, then we will do our stuff on the next frame. So we've load, right? So we have our money. Right now, obviously, we still don't have our player stuff because that was before the saving loading. And if I buy a card, buy this card, buy that card again, I can see, okay, we have those. Now, we should have gone through, and if I was thinking, I would have been watching, the save, right? So we've saved. All right, so if I come out and we replay, we've gone through, we've now loaded. And I can go through, I can see my goblin and my 2 knights. And if I open my store, I can see the money's there, but I have my cards. We've now successfully built our little store with saving and loading, and being able to buy cards into our inventory. That's probably a way longer video than I expected. It's probably good though, hopefully. And then the next one we'll have to deal with how do we take the player's inventory, build the battle deck. And then from the battle deck, how do we go into the game, then the game logic itself. So I guess a bigger series than I thought it was going to be, but hey, whatever. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed. Talk to you later.